The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Security threats are everywhere. But with Xfinity XFi, you're notified of threats to your in-home Wi-Fi network, so all your connected devices are protected. That's simple, easy, awesome. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit today. Restrictions apply.
Michael, tell me about Montreal. It might be like the greatest North American city that I've never been to.
Oh my God, you've never been there?
Never been there. Because the Expos expired before I got a chance to go up there.
First of all, don't bring back bad memories. You know that was my team.
I know it was your team, and that is like one of the saddest stories in the history of North American sports is that the Expos expired right when they were so great.
Stop using the word expired.
Expired.
It's very obnoxious.
It is obnoxious. Okay, they freaking died. How about that?
Yeah. Well, they relocated. They didn't exactly die.
Well, that's true. And they carried that championship legacy all the way down to D.C.
They would have won a legacy if there was, or they would have won a World Series, I think, in, what was it, 95?
Yep, I think they would have.
When, what was the strike that happened?
It was, yes, the player walkout, actually. So,
okay,
but no, tell me about the city, because we've mentioned
it's
it before.
An awesome city. I will say that yesterday I didn't get to take advantage of it. Second of a back-to-back, it's just awfully hard. So, pretty much saw the inside of the Marriott Chateau Champlain and the inside of the Bell Center, and walked through. And I've never left the Bell Center without it snowing out. So walked through a little snow. I wouldn't call it a storm, but not the most comfortable snow in my on the walk back to the hotel. But and then a real short turnaround. Early flight with customs. So, but it's just an awesome city. Lively culture. There's old Montreal, which is kind of, really old school, cobblestone streets, great bars, things like that. And then, of course, Crescent Street and downtown Montreal, which is another area of just fun. So it's just a cool place. The entire downtown right now is under construction. Apparently there was some flood that happened, so they're redoing all the streets and putting all these sensors in. So driving around downtown is a bit of a pain in the butt.
He's Michael Russo. This is the Russo-Souhan Show. I'm Jim Souhan. This is part of our network, mnspn.com. You can find all of our shows there. We're doing 6 constant shows as well as a few additions now and then. Thanks to our newest sponsor, Sandvold Financial Group, Todd Moritz at Sandvold Financial Group in particular. You can find them on Twitter at Sandvold with a V as in victory, FG. Also, thank you to twillmn.com. That's Twill in the Dining Galleria. Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America, up by Nordstrom's, fixologyrepair.com, and crown-bank.com. All right, so we're talking on a Friday morning after the Wild kind of broke through. Zucker had a hat trick. They got a shutout. They beat a Minnesota native goalie in Montreal. What's your feeling, Michael? Is that a significant win? Just or is it just in the hockey season, you're going to win a certain number of games?
Yeah. I mean, it's a win. Right now, nothing's significant until they get themselves on a little bit of a tear here. And, they've beaten a pretty crummy Montreal team twice this season. Now, I will say after the Wild beat them last week, Montreal went out and won 3 games against really good teams with Lindgren and Ned. And Lindgren was awesome yesterday. And I don't want to take anything away from the Wild, a second of back-to-back with kind of the emotional letdown of playing well in Toronto and not winning. It could have easily been hairy yesterday, but they stuck with it. And most impressive is in the third period when you thought their legs would be mush, they look better than they really did throughout the second period. So that's good. But this team right now, they finally took advantage of a team without significant players. I'll say that.
Right.
They couldn't do it against a Boston team without Marchand and Krejci and Spooner and a bunch of other guys. And then they go and catch Toronto without Austin Matthews and waste that effort. And last night they catch Montreal without Drouin and Shea Weber and Carey Price, who, the Wild usually roast Carey Price. So that's not the worst thing there. But I just, they finally won a game. And so now can they go into Philly in this road trip, in a way where, most people would tell you that going on the road and getting 500 is a pretty decent road trip. And, when you start off 0-2, it's a very decent road trip if you can win the last two.
And what should we read into Zucker having a big game? I mean, we've seen him have good games before. Is he ready to be a better, more consistent player?
Well, he's just such a leader right now on the ice. I mean, you saw it even in Toronto. I mean, he's trying to take it upon himself to really help the Wild out of its doldrums right now. And so, I think that was significant yesterday. He was tenacious all game. He was fast. He was aggressive. He played quality defense. He looked awesome on that line with Nino and Stahl. And then shorthanded, I mean, that was a tremendous play by Mikhail Granlund, the hustle and then the nifty stick work to not only lift the guy's stick, but then to one-hand the puck
to
Zucker. I mean, even Zucker was surprised by the whole play. It was terrific. So, I think it's gigantic for a Wild team right now that's not getting a lot of goal scoring from anybody. It's big that Zucker's doing this. They need him to pick it up, and he's going to need some help as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys right now that aren't scoring, and a lot of guys that aren't playing well, and so they definitely need more right now. I know that there's a lot of fans that you have this. It's like this feel right now that the season's over, and that it's going to be a long year, and it certainly feels like it's going to be a long year. But there is plenty of hockey to be played here. The difference between last year's Wild start, where they were pretty much at this pace, and this year is that the Wild are on the bottom, where last year they had these amount of points and they were pretty much second in the division. There's a lot of teams winning right now out there, and then you have that St. Louis that's had the best start in franchise history after 17 games. They're 13-3-1. So Mike Yo's doing some good stuff there. So the Wild are looking up at a team 13 points ahead of them right now. So it feels daunting, but the season is far from over, and their goal now is to just keep on getting some points here, and especially try to buy some time for Coyle to come back in the lineup.
LaPanta was making the point that even though the Wild is way down on the list of Western Conference teams in the standings, that they're not in horrible shape in terms of points per game yet. Do you buy that?
LaPanta always takes the positive.
I know he does, and that's why I'm giving you the opportunity to.
No, I don't buy that. They got to win. And right now, the concern that you have, I don't care about points and standings. It's about how they're playing on the ice. Now, the last two games have been extremely positive. And what was most positive about yesterday is that they could have easily let the letdown of not getting rewarded in Toronto affect yesterday's game, and they didn't do it. But overall, their game has not been good. They have a lot of guys that aren't performing well. Their goaltending has been very suspect from Dubnyk. And if that stuff doesn't get better, they're just not going to make the playoffs. So, if Dubnyk plays like last night, they're fine.
Right. Right.
It starts with that. He's given up a lot of deflating goals. And, even in Toronto the other night, I mean, those goals, I know they're fluky, but man, I mean, you gave up 3-4 scoring chances in the entire game. You got to win that game when you score three. You score three, or what they scored, 2 goals. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where I don't know. It just to me doesn't feel right now. But yesterday was definitely a positive sign.
I was looking up some stats yesterday, and since Mike Yeo brought the Blues into town, I think March 7th, this team's record is just not very good. Combined end of last regular season, playoffs, and the beginning of this season. Is it fair to paint that as a trend, or am I piecing too many different things together?
There's a lot of. It's funny that you said that, because I was trying to go back and where did things turn, and there's so many different areas where you could say it turned. You could say it turned December 29th. Coincidentally, I was talking to a referee that did the Toronto game yesterday on a plane, and he did that December 29th game against the Islanders when I think the Islanders rallied back, and that was the first time of that stretch where Dubnyk started giving up 4 goals a game. It was at December. So you have that one. Then you have the kind of those Chicago games all throughout February where it just seemed like they ripped the Wild soul out.
Yep.
You know, the game before the bye, Taves gets 3 goals, 2 assists, and next thing you know, we wake up the day of the bye, and they got the day of bye ends, and you know Marty Hansel's on his way to Minnesota. You know, so and then obviously the St. Louis game as well. But it definitely they have been a mediocre hockey team since the beginning of March. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And the concern that you have, and I think I've said it on the podcast before, is that this almost feels like the opposite of a Stanley Cup hangover. You know,
right.
It's like they just they look like at times they're not motivated for games, they're disinterested, things like that. And the sign here, the last 2 games have been positive. Is they looked more like the team that they should be. Where they had the puck all game in Toronto. Then last night, even though they gave up a ton of shots, I mean, you know, not only did they give up 41 shots last night on net, but they had another 28 shots that they blocked, and then Montreal missed the net 11 times. So I mean, that's what is that? 51, 61, 6, 69, 79, 80 shot attempts against the Wild last night. That's a ton. But on the other end, the Wild had 57, 67. You know, almost 80 shot attempts themselves. So, I mean, it was just one of those back and forth games that was very entertaining to watch. But if they can do that again in Philly and come back for a little homestand, it would be a pretty good confidence booster coming home.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that regard. I do want to thank Scott Dayton and his shop, twillmn.com, Twill in the Edina Galleria, also Twill, Twill, on Instagram. I've bought a lot of clothes there myself. I wear them constantly. Please check out Scott's place. And if you're going to go shopping in the winter, you want easy in and easy out. You want to be able to park right by a door, and you can do that at the Edina Galleria.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
Yeah, and you
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, you may.
What's your thoughts on this 280 characters on Twitter? Because a St. Cloud Husky fan just like wrote me an entire poem. So.
I think that Twitter is, well, first of all, what we found out about social media in the last year is that these are pretty evil. Excuse me, I choked myself trying to talk about this. Pretty evil, corporations that will take money from anybody, including hackers and Russians. So I'm not inclined to give them any benefit of the doubt. And then you add in the whole point of Twitter was brevity, and now you're ruining that.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It's missing the point. And I tell people all the time, if I wasn't in the media and didn't have an absolute responsibility to promote the Star Tribune and my own work and this podcast network, I think I'd just get off all social media.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel hypocritical that I'm ripping the 280 characters, because I've certainly since I've gotten the permission the last couple of days, I've taken advantage of it. It's good for now putting full context of quotes out there and things like that.
True. But
man, it's a lot to read now. I mean, that was the cool part of Twitter, is you got it in 140 characters,
Right.
Sometimes it was a pain in the ass to edit down. But the reason why I asked you this is because normally, actually, I'm kind of surprised by, when you ask me questions, when you ask for questions from our podcast listeners, I'm surprised I haven't looked at what the questions are. I might go to the restroom or something when you ask some of these questions. They're so long.
Well, Derek G. Johnson just asked a 500 character question, so we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I like
is that you need to instruct the podcast listeners that when they tweet now, brevity is better.
Yeah. Oh, no question.
Over quantity.
Well, and that's the thing. And the one good thing I have found about Twitter is that it's a good test. It does force you to edit yourself. And, you and I both are capable of writing long form. We're also, capable of just having the average 18-inch, 22-inch story where it's so easy as a writer at any level, in any forum, to add words. And the one thing I've liked about Twitter is it forces you to edit, which makes you think about editing. So I think it's a good writing tool in that way. You let it out to 280, you can write anything in 280 characters.
Well, did you see the next one now is Twitter put out today that you can make your Twitter name 50 characters now. I mean, that is going to be absurd.
Oh, why would you do that? And you know who that plays into? The Russian bots that have like 8 to 10 numbers behind their fake name.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Good Lord.
And just imagine the obnoxious emojis that are going to be on some of these Twitter names now too. Twitter even in their press release said, now you can use emojis. And I'm like, oh my God.
Michael, remember when you used to make fun of me for saying I'd never be on Twitter or Facebook or anything else? I want to go back to the days where I wasn't on any of those things and you were still making fun of me.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the next best storyline facing the Wild, or what's the next most interesting thing we need to talk about with this team?
That caught me off guard. Usually, I'm only usually that's.
Well,
the last
let me.
thought
I'll
thing.
be more specific. Ennis hit a pipe last night, but it's remarkable to me how many of the newer players just seem invisible. I'm not even saying they're playing horribly; they just seem invisible to me.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I mean, Ennis, Russo-Souhan had a funny tweet yesterday where he
don't encourage it.
Demonstrated what an Ennis check was using a Monty Python.
I did see that. Yes.
Yeah, that was, that guy. The problem with Russo-Souhan is he's usually so dead on the money on everything he tweets. It's just
especially
so
about
freaking
you.
Obnoxious.
Especially about you, yeah.
Yeah, I know. He had a tweet yesterday, just like, I mean, honestly, are you watching me right now? Like, I feel like, what was that? What was the Jim Carrey movie when he was like in his own movie?
Truman Show.
What was it?
The Truman Show.
What was it?
The Truman Show, which is a great movie.
I feel like I got him following me. Just some of the things he says, it's like, honestly, put my head on a swivel because he might be right behind me.
Well, he's our favorite stalker. That's how we refer to him.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Okay, maybe one of our top 10 stalkers. How about that?
Yeah. But yeah, you're right on Ennis, and Foligno's just is what he is, and he adds what he adds. I mean, last night he had 8 hits. He set the tone in that game. The first shift, he was, that first shift. Honestly, like the one thing Boudreau said in the post game that I could not have agreed more with him was when he mentioned how Foligno had the 3 hits.
Yep.
On the first shift last night. I even said in the press box, I'm like, wow, that is a great way to start a hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like Bruce said, this is why I'm starting you right now. And I want you to set the tone for the rest of the team to jump up here in this. And so guess who's calling me right now? Just guess.
Russo-Souhan?
No.
Your mother.
Of course.
Of course it is.
So
put her on.
So that was good. So, but he is what he is. I mean, he's limited offensively. Winnick, I just don't think he's been very good.
No.
But he is what he is. Quincy is what he is. They have a lot of is what he is guys.
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah,
I don't know if that's good.
I don't think that's good. You only want to be what you are if you are
the one
really
guy
good.
that when if they're healthy when Coyle comes back, I think you got to send him down to the minors and get him playing and scoring.
Yeah.
Like he does what he does. He's good. He's invisible. He's a good straight line forechecker. But man, he doesn't even come close to getting points. And
so
he is so bad in the faceoff circle. It's almost comical, which I think has hurt his confidence. So, I would keep Cunnin here. Have Coyle come up, put have Coyle play Eriksson Ek down and Parisi on LTI. That's how I would do it.
We have a lot of is what he is guys and does what he does guys.
Yes, exactly.
Fixology Repair does what they do very good. I think I might have screwed that sentence up. But Fixology Repair up there.
It was still a good segue, though.
It was the best I could come up with. I'm not saying it's good, but it's the best I can do today. Let's put it that way. And by the way, if you hear whining in the background, we're working in the home studio, and either my French Bulldog or Brandon is whining an awful lot. I'm going to have to give one of them treats here in a second. While you hear about Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America, go check out John Hedges. I think I told you on a recent show that I went there and got great service recently.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at Mall of America. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at FixologyMN on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
Okay, I just put either Brandon or the French Bulldog in the closet. We'll see how that works out.
You should take Brandon for a walk.
Yeah, I should take Brandon for a
bathroom.
walk. You're right. And, the thing is, you have the right harness for Brandon. You can't put just the little thing around his neck because he pulls too hard. You have the body harness. This is getting really weird.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Twitter questions or have you another subject you want to hit real quick?
Let's do Twitter questions.
Okay, from Al Nordin or Nordine. How much effect do you think the absence of Scott Stevens has had on the defense, plus the absence of Pominville and Scandella?
I think those are all good points. I mean, the one thing about Scott Stevens is that he was, and this is really no indictment of Bob Woods, but Scott Stevens was such a stickler for details. He would sit in front of a laptop, what I've been told, with players, and he'd just be absolutely, detailed. No, you don't do this. You do this. And on the ice, I think that had a lot of effects. And if you really think about the way the Wild have played this year, Jim, they just haven't been very detailed. And I'm sorry, I have been one of those guys that really felt like, I don't think, I'll try to say this without trying to, make it like revisionary type things. But the one thing I had thought is that like they would miss Pominville. I mean, and I'm not even talking about the whole points per game thing and the fact that, all the analytics people will tell you that he was much better than maybe people really thought because, I think fans, you see what you see and you see a guy that constantly was missing open nets and hitting the post and things like that. But the thing about Jason Pominville is he always played the system. He was very good defensively. He was the perfect third line guy. The problem is on this team, he seemed to be moving down the lineup to almost like a fourth line type of role. And so I just think that the Wild, when they realized they were going to be in major cap hell, and if you think about it, they still are, and they saved money by getting Foligno and Ennis. They made the decision that they had to get rid of his contract, and to do so, Scandella had to be part of it as well. Scandella, the thing about Scandella is you knew they had to get rid of one of their two $4 million defensemen, and it was either going to be Brodin or Scandella. And Brodin is somebody that they believe in a lot. But my issue with and it's tough for me to say because I think Brodin has actually been pretty good this year. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there are things that he does on the ice subtly that no other defenseman on this team can do. His footwork of getting pucks out of trouble and his mobility is second to none on the Wild. But the difference with Scandella and anybody else is on a undersized or at least under physicaled defense core that they have. I'll make up a word. Scandella was a different type of defenseman on this team, but he was coming off a terrible year and a half, really. But to me, like Riley and Olofsson could have replaced Brodin, but I don't think Riley and Olofsson could fill the role that Scandella played. Yeah. Physical and things like that. Yeah. But I think a lot of it still is very. Hindsight's 2020 with fans saying they miss Scandella. Go back, and I love the kid. I think everybody knows it. It's read all the stuff I've written about him. But go back to his last year and a half, and he was not good. He was their worst penalty kill defenseman, too. That's the other thing is that earlier this season, it was like they miss Scandella and this Scandella. Scandella was the guy that was always the ones making the mistakes on the PK. Mm-hmm. And on the ice for a lot of the goals against, and by far the most goals against of any of their blue liners last couple seasons. So, I think there's no doubt that they miss let's put it this way. I think that they've made so many periphery moves, 8 guys lost. I think that as a whole has created a problem. But the Scott Stevens thing that Al Norden mentioned is definitely a factor, I think.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. And Scandella, I think they miss size. It's not a very beefy defense, but yeah, it's not like he's a great player, Yeah,
and when Scandella was good, he was good, but but he had major shortcomings. Sometimes it was thinking the game. Remember we were in Boston last year when Bruce Boudreau had to explain to him the laws of physics, and you can't actually shoot a puck through a human leg because nobody was creating breakaways more than Marco Scandella with putting shots through guys' legs and things like that. So he had his issues the last couple of years, but on a blue line like this, I still kind of almost rather Scandella than Brodin. It's just based on the fact that, this blue line is not physical. And I do think in a long, I wonder in a 4-round playoff series if you can win like that, because I don't think Kyle Quincy's going to cut it. First of all, Quincy, I don't look at him as a physical defenseman. I really don't. He's size, but, he is what he is.
Absolutely. I have to ask Derek G. Johnson's 8,000-word tweet question next. I do want to thank our newest sponsor, Sandvold Financial Group, SAND, V as in Victory, OLD. Sandvold FG on Twitter, sandvoldfinancialgroup.com. Todd Moritz is our contact and the person you should contact at Sandvold Financial Group.
Plan for tomorrow today. It sounds easy, but for many people it's not. The good news is, planning for your financial future isn't something you have to do all by yourself. Visit sandvoldfinancialgroup.com to request more information and ask for the tax-efficient insight of Todd Moritz, CPA.
Registered representative of and independent of Questar Capital Corporation. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Questar Asset Management.
Okay, Derek G. Johnson, you might want to sit down for this one. With your insider information on Trampled by Turtles, when do you think they reunite and get back to business? On a hockey note, how pleased is Bruce Boudreau with Kunnin and Eck? They both are the kind of players this team needs. Thank you. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. To be or not to be, that is the question.
The former, on Trampled by Turtles, it's not for me to say, but they're not done. I'll put it that way. And on the latter, I think he's very, very happy. I do think that Eck has been up and down. And, I still wish that Kunnin would show his shot more, get in more shooting positions. A lot of that is being put in a position. I personally think he should be on the power play. I don't like Foligno on the power play at all. I mean, it's got to stop.
Agreed.
It just,
Mm-hmm. And the power play has been terrible.
What's that?
And the power play has been terrible.
Yeah, oh my God, it's 2 for its last 31 over the last 9 games. It's just laughable at times. For a group that if you actually put their offensive zone time and charted that, it'd probably be near the top of the league. But it's a joke that they have 4 shorthanded goals and 8 power play goals this year. That's crazy. They almost have as many shorties as they do power play goals. Just imagine if the Wild had 12 power play goals, where they'd be in the standings. They'd probably have 3 or 4 more points.
Right.
Easy. How many times have the Wild had a power play or 2 or 3 to either tie a hockey game or win a game in the third period of a game that's been tied late? It's been a ton this season.
Right. And, if you're an optimist, you can say they're not that far away, but I just tend to think if you miss out on points, you missed out on points.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a negative SOB. That's the way this works.
Well, you're a columnist. You're a columnist, James.
True. Snark alert, Mike Swanger. Will anyone besides Zucker ever score with his team again?
Probably somebody.
Okay. I see you're the positive guy. You said yes. I would have said absolutely not. That's the last goal this franchise is ever going to score. From Nikolai, here's another 8,000-word tweet. We're going to have to I've always had this societal.
I really do think that you should, for next time we do this, point out that you got to ask short questions.
I will do that.
Like I'm going to do a Russo mailbag on the athletic.com coming up, and I guarantee you that I will put a little. I will make my own policy. It'll be the Russo policy, not the Twitter policy.
Well, you know me. Instead of banning them, I'd rather just make fun of them.
Yes.
So we can do that. From Nikolai, if the Wild continue with subpar play, would they look into a significant trade to change some things up? Also, why hasn't Boudreau kept the Quincy, Dumba, Brodin, Olofsson, or Riley D pair and revert back to Dumba and Brodin?
The latter asking why
hasn't Boudreau kept the Quincy, Dumba, Brodin, Olofsson, or Riley D pair? And I'm not sure what he's trying to say.
I just think that he doesn't like. I think that he realizes the shortcomings of Quincy and really Riley. And the worst Corsi of any NHL player in the league, defenseman. So now he's getting on the ice with third and fourth liners that absolutely refuse to shoot, which is one reason why he's got an awful Corsi. Sorry. I almost had an aneurysm just getting that out. It ticks me off so much.
A lot of that going around.
But in terms of what was the first part of that question?
You see a trade that would change things up?
Here's the problem with the 280 characters now. It's like a reporter that's like, you know what? And it's a pet peeve, but it's a pet peeve that I even often do. Like sometimes in a press conference, when you only get one question, you like throw 3 questions in at once.
Right.
That's what the 280 characters are doing now, Jim.
That's true.
You have to set the standards next week.
I will do that.
140 characters, and you can only ask one question. You don't get, because you get 280 characters now, the chance to ask 4 or 5. Don't you agree?
Oh, I agree. I mean,
you lay down the law next week, Jim.
I think these people should be punished.
Yeah. Trade, I talked to Chuck about that in Toronto, and even though I didn't write it, it was to me on the record. But I asked him about that, and he's like, look, there's really we're limited right now. The cap situation, the one issue that is really limiting is the fact that because Zach is going, their hope is that he's going to come back at some point. You can't just go out and make a bunch of moves, because you can't spend over your $75 million cap. And so the guys that you're trading on the team, I don't see them, first of all, I don't see any other team being able to just take a 5.5. Like, in other words, what I'm saying is that for the Wild to make a significant trade, you'd have to trade one of their high salaried guys right now. Well, everybody's at the cap. Nobody could take, nobody's taking Granlund or Nino off you right now. And I don't think you're making that decision over a short-term blip of a month when the Wild have had bad months throughout their tenure and recovered from them. So, I think we're way this isn't like 2009 when the Wild got off to such a horrendous start that next week they woke up and Chuck Kobasu was on the Wild. So I just think that you look at their lineup right now, and I look at it and I don't see guys that you're willing to trade right now to get out of this mess, and I don't see a lot of answers, because the guys that you would trade are all the low salaried guys that aren't going to get you anything significant anyway.
Exactly.
So, and they've got to stop trading draft picks, and they've got to stop trading prospects.
Yes.
So this is the team. I've used the old cliche a lot in the last 2 years, but this is what I meant. When I said they made their bed, they made their bed. The second they re-signed Granlund and Nino to $11 million contracts combined, this was their team. This was their core. There's not a lot of ways out of this, and so there you go.
So they made their bed, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's a good analogy. From Mike Swanger again, on a serious note, do you see any way that goalie interference can be called in a consistent manner? It seems to be a coin flip.
It's really funny. Sorry, I'm tweeting.
Shocking.
So, what's really funny about that is, so last night
you just can't get through a show without tweeting to Russo Slacks. It's really pathetic.
No, I just wanted to. They sent down Svedberg, so I wanted to point out Stalock was back. Big news. Yeah, we should have had. You know what you need is Brandon needs to come up with a breaking news alert.
We do need to
sound like radio.
Yeah, he can just do it. He doesn't need to build one. He can just start.
No.
Yeah, Brandon, you can just sing that for us.
No. Yeah. So no. What was the question?
I knew you had lost all train of thought. I knew that was coming. That's what we need. We need to just get that as a bit and just replay that every 5 minutes.
What was the question?
Goalie interference. Any way to call it?
Oh, that's what I was saying. So last night, Claude Julien in Montreal just went on this rant about, and it's true. None of us know what goalie interference is. Every referee has a different judgment, blah, 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 blah. And so I see this and I read this and I retweet the tweet from the Eric Engels, who's the Montreal writer. And then next thing I know, and this is back when I got back to my hotel, so I was catching up, all of a sudden, John Stevens, the LA Kings coach, has a exactly similar rant about something that happened in the Kings game that's tweeted out by the LA Kings insider writer. So I just thought it was hysterical that I retweeted them both last night back to back. So if you go back through my Twitter feed, you'll see it. But no, I don't think there is. You don't know from night to night. I think that if you gave last night's goalie interference reversal to all 65 NHL referees, 75 NHL referees, I bet you that half come back with a no goal, half come back with a goal.
Yeah, exactly. So Mike's point is dead on. From John B. Let me actually first thank Crown Bank, crown-bank.com, our longest running sponsors. Locations in Edina and downtown Minneapolis. I walk by the Minneapolis location all the time, and I drive by the Edina location all the time. Especially if you're a local business owner, you can work with a Minnesota company that specializes in business. In fact, their slogan is Crown Bank, the place to do business.
Your banking relationship should match your lifestyle. And if your lifestyle is to live well, you want Crown Bank. You want a bank and a banker who will give you what you want and what you need without a hassle. Crown Bank is responsive. From ordering checks to making you a loan, they build a relationship with you that will help you get what you want so that you can live well. Crown Bank. It's a lifestyle choice and the place to do business. Member FDIC.
From John B., what happens to the Parisi contract if he's not able to play in the NHL after surgery?
Well, if he retires because of injuries, theoretically, it would be a Marian Hossa situation where the Wild would, I guess, forever be able to go into LTI. The one thing with that though is that you can't go into LTI in season, so it's not like the Wild every summer could, the way that I understand it. It's not like the Wild every summer can go spend $8 million over the cap. You don't. I don't think you get LTI, advantages until once the season starts. And in terms of his contract, that's insured. You have to insure the top 5, I believe, highest paid players on your team. That's an actual NHL rule. I should actually write that story. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me go. Let me get a pen. Write that to add to my. I got a story idea list that is honestly, you wouldn't even believe it. It's actually daunting, but the one thing I found with the new job is that the readers, give you the best story ideas, because it's what they want to read. Right. So it's kind of like, that's a good one. So I'm going to write that down. Actually, if you're listening to whoever asked that question, if you're listening to this podcast, send me an email at mrusso@theathletic.com and remind me, and I will add that to the list.
There you go.
So unfortunately, I left my notebook in my bag here.
I'm going to ask a long question, but this one is a good one. It's from MJ, loyal listener and perceptive human. How was Mike's mother's visit? And that's just the first part of the question, but I want to give you a chance to answer that.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
It was great.
Did she get the VIP treatment when she attends a Minnesota Wild game at the XL Energy Center?
Does she get the VIP treatment?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that. She sat, I got her ticket. She sat in the seat. She did come up to the press box to watch me do the pregame show one night on TV. She does know all the elevator operators now. Fran, who's the greatest woman ever, who runs the press elevator. She and my mom love each other, so that she always goes and sees them. But no, I mean, nothing, special. That was pretty. I will say this, and I shouldn't say this because it's such a conflict of interest, but I did do something that I've never done in my entire career. But do you guys remember? I don't know if you remember, but last year it was a big joke that I said to everybody that my mom just happened to run into Craig Leopold at a development camp or something, and yelled at him, the Wild owner, when are you guys going to quote unquote hire Matt Cullen? So do you remember that?
I remember.
So
yes.
So this is such a conflict of interest, and I swear to you, in 23 years, I've never asked a player for an autograph. Okay, ever. Although actually that's a lie. I just thought of it one other time. So 2 times. But I thought it would be funny. So I went to the team store on the first game that my mother went to. She went to 2, and I bought they have actually women's jerseys there. I guess they're not authentic, but they're women's style jerseys, I guess tighter fitting, whatever. So I bought a Cullen women's jersey. They're actually pretty expensive. Holy mackerel! And I actually got it. I didn't do it personally, but I got it to Cullen, and he signed it. Barbara, thanks for getting me hired, quote unquote hired Matt Cullen. So she was very proud of that gift.
Well, that's very funny, but according to our ethics regulations,
yeah, I know. It's bad. That's why I shouldn't.
You have just been fired from the Star Tribune.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The only other time that I got an autograph was in 1998 or 9. Dino Ciccarelli scored his 600th career goal, and on the front page of the Sun Sentinel, we had an incredible picture of him celebrating it. And he asked me if I can get, copies of that picture from the photographer. So I had, he asked for 10 pictures. And so the photographer actually printed them out. It was back when I think he had to go to Kodak and get it printed. and he made like 10 like 8x11 pictures of this. And I got 11 of them. I gave 10 to Dino, and then one of them I just asked him to autograph for myself because I just thought it'd be a great keepsake forever. And it's the only autograph I've ever asked from a player, and it still sits in my office at home.
I just can never look at you the same ever again.
I know.
But I'll move on. Joe Rogers, now that we have a few days separation from Dumba being benched, do you like the idea of him still being paired with Brodin, or do you think they should be split?
Well, I personally think that Dumba should play with Suter and Brodin should play with Spurgeon. That's just me.
Yeah.
But that will never happen.
Davis Bailey, has Cunning's play forced the Wild's hand in keeping him up even after Parisi and Coyle return?
Well, technically, Parisi and Coyle returning, I don't know if they could afford to keep him up. Mm-hmm. No, that's not true. I think they could. If they're both in the lineup together. Plus, at some point somebody else is going to be out, and by that point there should accrue enough cap space. So, but I think he deserves to stay here over Eriksson Ek when Coyle's healthy. Technically, they could keep them both here because they'll put Parisi on LTI. But
Austin Thompson, how realistic or helpful would it be to bring Jordan Leopold onto the staff to help Dumba?
I don't know. I mean, he's a smart hockey guy. Dumba respects him greatly. I don't know if Jordan wants to coach or what. I haven't talked to him about that. I haven't talked to Jordan in a while, actually. But I think he would. I think that Dumba, the more help, the merrier. Dumba was one of those guys last night. He was good and bad, but his good far outweighed the bad last night. He had one defensive play that saved a sure goal, and then when Ryan Suter. When I don't know what Suter was thinking, but at the end of one Wild power play in the third period, Ryan's I forget who was it that came out of the box. I got the box score right in front of me. Whoever was serving the power play for Lindgren, it doesn't say on the stat sheet. Might have been Galchenyuk. He comes out of the box. Suter looks behind him and sees, I think it was Galchenyuk back there, and then just continues to look forward. And next thing you know, the Wild turn the puck over. And Galchenyuk is sitting at like the far blue line about 30 feet behind Suter. And honestly, if Dumba does not save that puck at the boards, I mean, that's a breakaway. And, that to me was like a tired mistake on Suter's part. So, it's hard to criticize Matt Dumba after last night's game because in my eyes, he saved 2 goals. But I know that he had his hiccups too last night. And he's just going to, he is what he is. He's going to have his hiccups.
He does what he does.
Yep.
2 more Twitter questions and a Russo final thought that he'll absolutely blow off. MJ asks, when am I going to, Jim Souhan, going to get out and cover a Wild game or another hockey game? It's amazing, Michael. I haven't been out there. Chip covered their road opener between football covers, the Wolves being better, and some other NFL things. I just haven't gotten out to the X. And if they were playing,
I have an idea. If
they were playing well, I would have been out there, but they're kind of playing lousy. I just haven't been motivated to go out and rip them.
I have an incredible idea, Jim.
Okay.
An incredible idea.
Well, I'll be the judge of that.
You know how I have this army of freelancers, right?
Yes.
Over at The Athletic?
Yeah.
You're going to love what I'm going to tell you. In fact, you'll probably cut it out.
I think we've already decided we're going to cut it out.
I got Sage Rosenfels, right? Covers the Vikings, doing columns. Awesome.
I've never heard of them.
College hockey people. I got Heather Rule and Jess Myers and Eric Vigo and Nate Wells and so on and so on. Bruce Siskey. Got Brandon Slyke down in Iowa. Got Brian Hall and Jesse Pierce as my backups. The one thing I don't have is a freelance columnist. So I think that on your off nights that you come down, you freelance for me, write columns on the Wild for The Athletic.
I really have no interest in working with you ever again. So let's just move on from that. Next Twitter question. Why haven't the Wild tried to give Cunnin a shot on the power play or give Eriksson Ek a shot instead of Stewart and Foligno? Do you have any agreement with that? That's from NH, by the way.
The guy can't win a draw to save his life.
Yeah.
So, the key to a good power play is to win the offensive draw. So Ek can't be there. Cunnin, I totally agree. I think he should be on the power play.
Michael's going to blow off my idea of giving him a chance to give us a final thought after I thank, again, Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America by Nordstrom, Sandvold Financial Group, SAND, V is in victory, OLD. What are you doing, Michael? Sandvold Financial Group, Todd Moritz, Todd Moritz is your contact at Sandvold Financial Group. Yeah, we heard everything you're doing. And Crown Bank, crown-bank.com.
So what I was doing was I was trying to lift the garbage can with my foot because I was bored.
Yeah, that was awesome. Good job. Way to stay engaged. This is why your newspaper career ended. You couldn't stay focused. Okay,
ADD, man.
Now give me your final thought.
Other than by Jim Souhan, Special the Athletic, I really don't have another final thought. No, final thought.
Okay, you don't have one. That's good enough. We can move on.
Yeah.
Enjoy Philadelphia.
Any other good questions?
No.
Mary O'Neill's had to ask something. Actually, here she is.
Oh, you got one for me?
Devil, how concerning is Granny's lack of scoring and potential lingering groin injury? I don't know. He seems to be laboring suddenly, but I don't know if it's Mike Greenlay pointed out last night that he took a shot in Toronto, and that's why he was laboring. I will say this: I interviewed Granny after the game last night, and he walked away from me without any visible limp. So I do think it is the groin, and so I think that is concerning. But man, what a freaking play he made on the shorty last night. I mean, that's why Granny is just so good. I mean, if you go look back at that replay, call it up on NHL.com, the shorthanded goal. Just watch Granlund, how he turned nothing into something. That puck had no business being won by him, and it's just an incredible play. And then one other thing that just came into my mind too is Chris Stewart. He's been getting a lot of flack lately because he has not played well. But man, just where you like why this guy. I know the whole he's good in the room stuff gets overrated in hockey, but just watching the goal celebration of Zucker's hat trick on the bench. I mean, all of a sudden, Stewie takes off his helmet and starts waving it on the celebration line as Zucker's going by, like he's going to throw his helmet on the ice. And I'm just like, that guy is just a good teammate. And so that's another final thought.
Hey, you did it. You came up with a good final thought. That was awesome.
Ever. Yep.
I'm proud of you.
First time ever.
I'm proud of you.
You and I we'll talk freelance contracts when we get off the phone.
Why would I work?
Special the Athletic.
Michael. I have my dream job at a major metropolitan newspaper. Why would I work for a little startup?
What if you did it under a pseudonym?
I mean, how do you? I don't even know. How do you read the Athletic? Is it fax service?
Yes, it's a fax.
Okay,
service.
Will you fax me some of your stuff? I haven't seen any of your stuff in like years.
Not nice.
Well, hey, you call me a freelancer. You better put on your chin strap, man.
I'll pay you.
More comedy, Michael. I love it when you're funny. I love it when you're funny. It makes the podcast so much better than usual.
Yes.
He's Michael Russo, and he is very mad at me right now.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
No.
Buckle up, because Metro is bringing you the best deal in wireless. Switch to Metro and get your choice of 2 awesome free phones from top brands like Samsung and LG with huge HD screens and tons of memory for all your pics and videos. So hurry into Metro and get your awesome free phones only at Metro. Plus sales tax and activation fee. Requires port-in of eligible number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. Limit 4 per account or household. Restrictions apply. See store for details and terms and conditions.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow. That's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer, that's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.